So I have to admit, sometimes when I start doing talks, so when I sit there at the beginning and I have my eyes shut, you know, the feeling comes up of what possibly could I talk about? Like, what could I possibly say? Like really actually no words come for this subject. And then suddenly at some point speaking happens and I start speaking, and then there's listening, but like what could I possibly say? Your freedom is right here. Everything you look for is this, is what's happening. And that's so simple, and that's it, basically. That your freedom is what's happening, is this, is what's manifesting now. It's that which knows itself. It's not really complicated. It's not full of lots of conceptual ideas. It's not something you have to bend your mind to understand. It's the way it is. It's the way it is. And there comes, if I'm really honest in this moment, there comes absolutely no momentum to talk about it. And this often happens before talks. I'm just trying to talk it out, just to be authentic in my sharing. Like even when I do public talks, like this last week I was at a festival, and there's all these faces looking at me, all these people waiting for me to speak, and I'm sat there and I'm like, and I don't think it's a fault. Like I don't think that there's something wrong with me, or that there's something wrong with the way I share. I think it's actually very natural to feel that way, because there isn't anything to say about this subject. Like I don't, like when I had that big shift years ago, I never had the inclination to really speak about it. It was more an expression of joy or an expression of love that came through, but there was no inclination, it sounds really weird, to speak about it. Just, it didn't come. I know it sounds super weird that I've done so many talks. And sometimes all I have to do is kickstart myself. So I have to start with a very typical sentence or a very typical statement, and that gets me going, like rum, rum, rum. Like starts it up. So like I think a typical statement, or I think a word, or I say something like, all there is what's happening, and whatever the statement is, and it starts up speaking. And I think it's super important that when you're giving a talk, even in giving a talk, even when I work with people one-on-one, that you're genuine as you can be. I think that's more important than any words that are spoken. we're often taught in this society that we have to speak. That if you don't speak, then you're not being nice or you're not being kind. One thing I used to love about hanging out with the Buddhists was that when I went to the Buddhist center, it was silent, and the Buddhists were very used to being in silence and sitting in silence, and you didn't have to speak if you didn't want to, which I thought was fantastic. Like, I was very young when I first started going there, but I used to love being in the break time and just having the option not to speak, that wasn't seen as rudeness. Whereas in our society, it's often seen as rudeness if you don't keep conversation going all the time. And I have to admit, I don't stick to silence. I often speak when I don't feel like speaking because of empathy for the other person. Like, I feel compassion for the other person. I don't want to make them feel rejected or abandoned, and I can read that they need some love and attention and some words to feel comfortable. But I would love it if people would feel okay with my silence. Like, often when I meet someone, I've got nothing to say. Like, I stand there and I've really got nothing to say to them. And I don't mean to be rude, and I don't dislike them, but there's just, what's there to say? Here we are. And is that okay for you? Like, how do you feel if someone is quiet in front of you? What is silence to you?